Today's guest, having previously been in professional rugby between the years of 2015 and 2018 at sides such as Leicester Tigers and Irish Exiles, came away from the game and now finds his fires lit as a young entrepreneur and investor. He has a property portfolio, a social media marketing agency, fitness company, clothing company, and more recently a tech startup company, representing the new generation and a gent I had the pleasure of putting through his paces many moons ago. Mr. Lewis Evitt, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, guys. Happy to be on. Excited. Thank you. Excited to have a chat with you both. See you both doing some very cool things with this podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, mate. Sounds like you've got a lot going on at the moment.
Yeah, busy. I mean, obviously at the moment, a weird time that we're in. Everyone's saying it, like weird time that we're in. But things have been super busy for me. Maybe gone the other side of things, like sort of out of my portfolio businesses. Some have been really busy, some have gone down. So I'm just like finding a medium at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it'd probably be interesting to hear how that's all gone for you. Didn't know you're in the middle of a renovation at the moment, aren't you? Hence the echo.
Exactly. I'm sitting in. I won't show you the room, but I'm sitting in an empty room at the moment. So apologies for the poor audio. But yeah, mate. In the middle of a renovation, so busy with that. The girlfriend's keeping me hard at work, cracking the whip. And then obviously busy with my social media company at the moment.
So it'd probably be worth us starting to go through some of those. There's quite a few there, isn't there, from that list that you've set up, and obviously some will be more recent than others. So
yeah.
But in fact, let's go a little bit before that. Then obviously coming out of rugby and that sort of thing. Why was it you think you moved into, like, what set you up thinking, right, I'm gonna, like, entrepreneur is a bit of a flavour word, isn't it? Everyone
100%.
gets thrown around quite a lot. What made you move into that sort of line of work, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, so I'm 21 at the moment, so I suppose my path is a bit different and a bit weird compared to like the average person, should we say. And so I was playing like professional rugby since the age of like 15. So I moved away from Leicester. You obviously were one of the people who got me in the nick to be able to do that. So thanks to you.
I'll take that, mate.
It's a bit of claim to fame. But yeah, I mean, so I moved away when I was 15 to play professional rugby in Leicester for a Premiership team called Leicester Tigers. They're a massive club, and at the time had like the only full-time academy in the country. So they were getting boys to move away from home when they're 15, 16, like basically living the dream. So I was in a house full of like 12 of my best mates living in this fucking massive house in like central Leicester, tearing up playing rugby in the day, and then even though we're 15 and 16, like basically living the uni life, while training really hard and, you know, trying to keep ourselves a good nick and that sort of thing. So did that for 3 years. Like my normal day would be like getting up at like 5, 6 in the morning, gymming, going to college, messing about in college all day, going home, and then playing rugby, and then obviously doing like homework, for example. But when I was 18, I was playing in Leeds, and basically, if you like can think of the worst possible knee injury and then times that by like 10, that's what I had. So pretty much snapped my knee in half, did all my ligaments. Standard sob story of like the athlete who had a knee injury and was able to play. Like literally, you hear it all the time, but that was literally me. So literally was on the verge of maybe like having my contract extended. And then had that happen, and literally like my life changed in a split second, because there's me 1 second thinking I was going to play professional rugby for a career, and then like in the second instance had nothing because messed about in college, didn't want to focus, wanted to like play rugby all day, like piss about with my mates, and that was it. So really I was like lying in a hospital bed thinking like, fuck me, mate, what am I going to do? Which isn't ideal, and that's the thing. A big thing to like take on when you're 18. I'd only just gone 18 as well, so I was like a young 18-year-old. And sort of, I suppose my biggest driver and like inspiration is my dad. Like he was homeless when he was 16, and basically worked really hard to become a successful entrepreneur himself. And I was sort of thinking, right, I'm not going to have the opportunity to go to uni, not really qualified enough to do anything else. Never really liked authority or that sort of thing. So I thought I'll go out and do something on my own. And an opportunity arose basically to start up a company called Rooflight Solutions, which does architectural glazing. Not the most interesting thing in the world, but something that gave me my start, my opportunity. And I sort of got into that through one of, basically a friend who gave me the opportunity to start a division in the Midlands. He ran like a London division, and did really well in its first year, made its money back, was able to buy the shares that my friend invested in the company with. And from there, that's really given me the capital and the opportunity to build the network and go on and do these other things.
Cool. So that was your initial reaching, wasn't it? You said so.
Yeah.
Probably quite different, and like you said, not one of those sexy sort of entries into entrepreneurialism that you tend to hear of.
Yeah.
I think that's quite an important one, really, for people that might be listening that maybe are in a similar situation, and it hasn't got to be what everyone pictures the ideal business to be for you to get your foothold, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I by no means would at this point in time class myself as successful or where I want to be or anywhere even near where I want to be. And I remember I was listening to this podcast, so I can't remember who it was, but he was basically saying that the road to success is very rocky. Like, some people see it from an outsider's perspective. If you take like some of the giants, like someone who I really like watching and listening to and that sort of things, like Gary Vaynerchuk or Elon Musk or those sorts of people, you look at them from the outside and you think that like they've gone 0 to 100 very quickly and very successful, and they haven't really had any major obstacles. But that's not the case. And I think with a lot of successful people, that isn't the case. You do go through like this rocky road of ups and downs. You'll have some big wins, but also big losses. And it isn't always really perfect on the surface. Like, what gave me the opportunity, as you said, for a start, was something that wasn't the most glamorous of things. It wasn't the most exciting of things, but it did the job. And that still runs at the moment. It's pretty autonomous, that company is. But that's given me both the skills and the opportunities to go into other things.
I'm guessing
maybe I'm more interested in.
Was it not like the belief as well that you can actually do this and I can make something of something that I'm going into?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's half the battle, to be honest with you, because a lot of the time, like, everyone has ideas, everyone wants to set up their own business, everyone wants to do every day what they enjoy, but a lot of the time, it's like they won't do it because they're scared. And I think with me, maybe that would have been the case with me, but it was the case of I literally had no other choice. So I sort of had to, like, you know, basically get my hands dirty. Otherwise, I literally don't know what I was going to be doing. I literally wouldn't have had anything to do. So maybe that was like what pushed me to do it. And I understand that with a lot of people, they maybe just need that push. But yeah, I agree that like a lot of the time people are scared to do that, and actually a lot of people have a lot of potential but aren't necessarily put in the situation sometimes or the environment to unlock that.
Yeah, there's lots of factors to that as well. I think I find it really, really interesting that the psychology of it, and people will sit there and it's almost that I'd rather not work 3 months for nothing to then live the life that I want to live. I'd rather work 40 years for pennies and have someone else live the life that they want to live. It's a bit of a thing, really, isn't it? And I think a lot of that does come down to probably your surroundings or what you've witnessed, or for yourself, obviously seeing your old man and the work that he'd done, that was probably something that you could draw on and reach into a little bit. But there's many factors to that, and we work with PTs that are in very, very similar positions. A lot of it is, I want to go and run a successful PT business, but I don't know where to start. I don't even know how to get qualified. I don't even know how to turn my passion into money. It is difficult, isn't it? It is difficult to know that. And I think when you've got a passion for creating companies, in my opinion, wrong, is what entrepreneurialism is. how do you even find that out? Do you know what I mean? How does that even come out? And yours was lying in a hospital bed with no other choice, really, by the sounds of it. So that was your first company. And then where was it that you moved into from there, mate?
Yeah, so like from there, I realised that maybe sort of built that portfolio, not portfolio, but built that sort of basically bank balance. And I always thought to myself, you know, I never really want to take anything massive for myself. I always want to keep reinvesting because that's just something that I believe that, you know, until I'm want to almost retire, like that's just what I want to keep doing, is keep reinvesting it. So the next thing I went onto was started a company in like early 2019, maybe late 2018, like pretty much a year after it was in development, after starting Roof Light Solutions. So when I started this company called Social 90, which is basically started as a social media management agency, and sort of I've always had this massive obsession with like psychology, but how people are a certain way on social media as opposed to real life. And I saw a gap in the market that at the moment, Instagram, especially in lockdown that we're in, is literally the biggest thing on the planet. And I just thought, how can we monetize that? How can a business monetize that while helping people? And so we started a social media agency, which aims to manage celebrities, influencers, and people who want to grow their social media, but do it very organically, like not using bots or software or anything like that, which a lot of businesses do, but not us. And then sort of that diversified, and we realized like normally if people want social media management, they're going to want some form of content creation. So like videography and photography, web design, graphic design. And that's really like the scalability of that's like grown rapidly over sort of the last 6 months, especially with dealing with a lot of professional athletes, working with them to build their personal brands. A lot of celebs we're working with, what you class as influencers, and that's really opened up a lot of doors in terms of the network for me.
Yeah, so probably.
Sorry, mate. I think just as human beings, I always feel like that when I'm on my social media. Is like I don't want it to not come across as if it is me. You know what I mean? I don't want to do a post or a video 3, 4, 5, 8 times, and then somebody that knows me goes, "Who was that was speaking on there?"
Yeah.
And I think people get stuck, don't they, with like a bit of guidance from that, and what you've built will help that massively.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing with something like this is making sure before you're drawing the money aspect away from it, and like first what you're going to charge people, or how much you're going to charge people, or even the pricing model of it. I actually did it the opposite way, where I was thinking, how can we help people first? How can we build this value proposition to someone where basically we give them the maximum amount of value that they couldn't necessarily do themselves, or don't have the time. Time is a massive thing. Time is the most important thing at the moment. I think a lot of people are realizing that, especially, as I said, with what's going on at the moment. Time is the most valuable thing. It's not money. It is time. And if you can save that by making someone's account more efficient while growing their engagement, their following, and giving them, as I said, building this personal brands, then that's really the key to it. And that's sort of our business model, is saving them time while sort of boosting the efficiency almost of their account.
Yeah, even like we say for PTs, we work with PTs. That's the majority of people that we work with, and social media for PTs is very, very interesting. I think you can clearly see the ones that have an idea or have a strategy in place and they're using it for that sort of thing. But then on the flip side of that, you'll see the guys that stereotypically just fall into what they think in their mind is what a PT does, or what they've seen other PTs post, which is chicken, broccoli and rice, topless selfies, and some form of a workout on repeat. It's pretty much that, isn't it? So I think like having a strategy and having a plan is definitely a big thing for social media, and the fact that you guys have looked into that and are supporting with that is massive. So is it, you said you work with pro athletes, and personal brand's quite a big thing anyway for anyone really. They should be looking to build that, in my opinion. Have you delved into looking with fit pros or working with fit pros? Is that a plan? Or?
Yeah, I mean, so we've worked with a couple of PTs, because I think you rightly said, The PT market at the moment, I think it's fair to say, is quite a saturated market in terms of people who are becoming PTs, and it's really important for personal trainers that they're really cutting through the white noise of PTs, making sure, one, they're getting the best training, they're getting use of basically how to run a successful PT business. And then also, like, from a social media aspect, obviously Instagram is the most, it's designed to be visually led. So how do you cut yourself away from like the Gymshark crowd, like you said, the broccoli and rice sort of crowd, and really stand out? So yeah, I mean, we do work with some sort of fitness pros per se, on a more so consultation basis than is actually managing their accounts, because I think that's the main thing for those, is just sort of pointing them in the direction that they need to go. I mean, a guy who smashed it like in the last 3 years is James Smith, who he started literally from nothing, and he's built his social media following, and I'd actually say arguably now he earns more money from doing his social media than actually PTing. And I suppose that's really the dream for a PT. You have a lot of coronavirus has brought an age of online PTing round, which always used to be in the background, but I think never as popular as in-person PTing. But like now, I mean, I've got a good mate who I know you know, Jordan, and he like runs Jab Fitness, and he's like diversified himself by doing online stuff and plugging it through his Instagram.
Yeah, most of the people like we say, through lockdown, that's pretty much where everyone's gone, isn't it? That's the platform that everyone's jumped onto, because virtual PT is the only way that they were even able to make money. I think for us, a big thing coming out of the other side of this is most PTs will have to have some form of online offering that is part of their service. And we sing and dance about it all the time, don't we, Mark, about having that service versus session based business. But even more so now that people will know that that's what's going to have to be in place, because they would have seen it all the way through this lockdown. The service is there, the online presence is there, the community aspect is there, and there's only one way you're ever going to really know how to do that, and that's by going and doing it, and putting yourself out there a little bit, which I suppose comes back to what we were saying at the start about having that belief. Like we were saying even before we started this podcast, it is quite scary, isn't it, to sit in front of a camera and see yourself speaking, and you're almost judging yourself as other people would judge you. So I suppose getting over that is a bit of a hurdle anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's just taking that leap. You see a lot of cliche stuff from motivational speakers who half them, to be fair, just chat shit. But you'll see a lot of them just going, take the dive, take the leap, be brave, that sort of thing. But it's true. Like, I actually wrote a post on LinkedIn the other day about it, is 99% of the people who have a great idea, they could have the coolest, most progressive, different, versatile idea in the world that's going to make them millions. 99% of the people who have that idea will not action it. It'll just be that 1% who action it. Then it'll be that 1% who's successful. So yeah, mate, that sort of, it is a very niche bracket.
It's not just a thing, is it? It's we were saying they have an idea. If they don't action it, it's just a thought. So it's,
yeah, exactly.
It's not an idea. It's just a thought that they've had and they thought it'd be quite good. But I think something that you action is an idea that you're trying to put to play, and I think you're 100% on the money with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, when does it even sort of conceptually be born as an idea? Even I suppose half the battle for people is I'd almost say, if you were to sit down, write a blank business model out. The business model doesn't have to be like a 10-pager PowerPoint presentation or whatever. I've literally wrote a business model on the back of the back of a napkin when I've been sitting down or something in a restaurant. If you can put whatever you're thinking down, that will almost trigger you to sort of get that ball rolling. But I do think now the next stage of people, I think people in general now, there's a lot of issues with confidence, but I think we are going to see a lot more successful people. There's more millionaires in the world than ever. There's more billionaires in the world than ever. and that's only going to increase and be on the up. So that surely is a factor to say that people are continuing to be brave, continuing to be bold, and have that motivation.
Yeah. It's like you say, taking the leap is the hardest part, I suppose. They're probably quite an interesting one. So when you've got that idea, what's the fire that gets you to go, right, I'm going to go and do it? Is there anything in particular I don't know, do you verbalize it? You said you write stuff down. What's your go?
A lot of my, apart from the stuff I've sort of set up on my own, a lot of the stuff that I've set up has normally been with like another person. So it's normally been like, I suppose, I don't mean to like sound arrogant or anything like that, but for my age, I suppose that people view me as got my own business, quite young. He must sort of know what he's doing. Half the time, I don't have a fucking clue. But I suppose people think that I know what I'm doing. So what's happened with a couple of times is people have come to me and been like, "What do you think about this?" May not even necessarily be my idea, but what I do have is maybe, you know, sort of 5 to 10 year head start on the skill set that's needed to set that business up, or at least get that business running to a phase of autonomy where then I can exit. Because it's important, you know, as a sort of, I use an investor in brackets, you always have an exit. That's sort of how it's got started. So, you know, from Social 90, which I set up, we've got Kazari Clothing, which is a clothing company that I part own with a mate that has like 50,000 followers on Instagram. I have Connex Events, which I've got 2 co-founders with, who also are really good mates of mine, Henry Purchase and Zach Shandakelzi. And sort of they're with business partners. So, for example, Henry and Zach come to me for Connex, which is like a tech startup. It basically aims to offer students opportunities, knowledge, and contacts through basically uni students, for example. They have a massive issue with being able to attend like conferences and events, because normally conferences and events, you know, charge a lot of money, and uni students, as we know, don't really have a lot of money. So that Connex aims to sort of either get free tickets or get discounted tickets for students, so they can go to these events and network and gain work experience and that sort of stuff, and add value to their CV. And sort of it aims to solve sort of issues with network poverty and sort of social diversity and that sort of thing. But Zach and Henry come to me and were like, "Lou, you know, can you help with the marketing of this? What do you think of the idea? Can you help develop the idea and the business model of it?" And from there, sort of, that's how I got involved with Connex. So a lot of the time for me, it's not even my idea almost. It's like, what can I offer? What is my personal value to the business? So that's how I've gone about sort of those businesses.
Networking's massive, isn't it? And we say it all the time that well, it's an age-old phrase and an age-old saying, your network is your net worth. So the more that you can link in with those people that have those sorts of ideas, it's massive. And saying that they're friends, I think that just almost reinforces a little bit that you want to be in positions and around people that have a similar mindset in terms of what they want to get to. That doesn't necessarily mean that you think the same or that you agree with each other all the time, but have someone that healthily can challenge you and has the mind frame of, this is the position I want to be in. So you can either learn from them or support them and guide them and work alongside and bounce off each other to get to that end goal.
And trust your decision making as well, mate. Somebody that will trust your decision making. So I think you've got to have that kind of relationship as friends in order to do that, like have the trust and be able to question a decision that somebody's making and stuff. Is that come across with you, Lewis, and your business partners?
Yeah, I mean, just to use Zach and Henry for an example. So just to start with your point, Dan, like I'm a firm believer of hanging around with people who really elevate me. And you cannot, and you find it out very much in, like, I suppose, your teenage years. Like, you can be the most popular person in school, which I wasn't, but you can be the most popular person at school, be God's gift at school, but then later in life, you know, when you start getting into work or whatever, you'll only have sort of maybe 2 or 3 friends who you can really trust. And you have to surround yourself with people who elevate you and don't drag you down. And sometimes you only find that out the hard way. So just on that, like, that's my biggest tip. Surround yourself. Like, don't think having 20 or 30 best mates or whatever, or, you know, is good. Or equally, you know, don't think having only one or two very close people who actually lift you up and who you can trust is bad equally. And like you said, Martin, it's really easy, really important to have trust, but equally, don't be afraid to question people. Like, you learn from your mistakes, but you can only know partly half the time, sort of, when you're making mistakes. You need to be told. So me, Henry and Zach, we have a really sort of open sort of agreement that anything we say is never personal. It's never going to come between our friendship. No emotion needs to be involved, which a lot of the time people find hard to do initially, but once you've learned to do it, it's a very valuable skill to have. But there's loads of times I've done stuff, and Henry and Zach, for example, have sort of questioned me on it, and you just have to swallow it and either sort of explain why you did something and the reason behind it, or sort of swallow and say, well, maybe I was wrong. And that comes from that trust point of view. Equally, there's been a number of times where I've said to the boys, look, lads, I know you don't necessarily think this is the right way to do it, but this is my forte. Like marketing, for example, this is how we should do it on Instagram. This is how it should look. This is how we should present it. Just trust me. And to be fair to them, they've gone ahead and done that. And there has to be that very open relationship. And we're constantly communicating, constantly speaking with each other, constantly flying about ideas and opinions. And that's really important.
Those conversations are just so much better to have, though, aren't they? This is probably going off on a tangent a little bit, but there's been times where you sat in a room or you're speaking to people that you might have known for years and years and years, and you're just like, this conversation doesn't get me going. Like, it doesn't excite me. Like, it's not going anywhere. I'm almost wasting your time. It's not the right word to use, because I think it is important to have people that you can be around and spend time with, that almost relax you and take you out of your hectic day to day. But yeah, like you say there, having those people that you can bounce ideas off, even if it is in a relaxed setting, those conversations, for me anyway, I buzz off those conversations rather than talking about EastEnders and fucking Netflix. Yeah,
like when we're together, we're constantly sort of vibing as a trio, and there are a couple more people involved in Connect who do a great work. So we've got someone based in Hong Kong. She's great, and we've got two people based in Hong Kong actually who are great. And it is really important that you can like sort of click with people. But don't get me wrong, you know, we've had times when we've been together and we're literally about to kill each other. But that is the nature. You're not going to find another human being on the planet, no matter what you think, who agrees with everything you say and like blows smoke up your ass constantly. Like, you are going to disagree on things, and that's the nature of having a business partner. But it draws back to the point that the business comes first, not your opinions or your emotions. The business comes first, and as long as the business is successful, as long as it's the right decision for the business, that's all that matters, essentially. Yeah. How do you find managing multiple projects? So that was something I've got on my pad just here as a bit of an interesting conversation, just to see how you find that and how you've managed to be able to almost have so many plates spinning at one time. I think for PT listening, or anyone really who's in the business sector that might have different revenue streams or different streams of income or whatever that might look like for them, how do you sort of go about managing your different projects without suffering from overwhelm and being stuck by fear, I suppose? Well, I suppose like since my rugby days, that sort of instilled me a massive, one of the good things I suppose it did for me is it was instilled a sense of being very organised. Like, for example, when I was playing rugby, if we were late for a gym session or whatever, like, you get sent home. If you're 30 seconds late for a gym session or training session, you're a massive bollocking, you get sent home, you've got to do a penalty, whatever, push a fucking Peugeot 307 around the pitch with the handbrake on, sort of thing. So that taught me, like, never, always to be punctual, always to be organised, you know. and I'm a big believer in this thing called the 4-Hour Work Week, which was a book wrote by Tim Ferriss. You probably
great book. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably heard of it. And basically, he's saying that money isn't everything, and you can govern your success by other things, sort of where you're working, who you're working with. It's not all about sort of working to this massive pay packet, which is the traditional view on things of, whatever, and then retiring. Like, you can retire the day you start working if you set up things right. And the way I've done that is creating what I like to call a level of autonomy within my businesses. So my businesses have been set up, and it's only from making loads of mistakes in the past, to be really autonomous. And by that I mean having maximum input with as minimum input as maximum output with as minimum input that's needed from me. So, for example, as long as I have my laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, and this is an exaggeration, I can literally run any of my businesses anywhere from the world, in the world. A lot of the time, I personally like to travel. That's what I enjoy, is what I get a kick out of. So like last year, for example, went and worked in Bali for the summer, and was still able to run all of my businesses from there. And that's for me how I stay really time efficient, making sure, one, that you're organised, because you're always going to have to be organised. If you've got a phone call, if you've got to send an email, if you've got to do something, you've got to do it. But being organised with your timings, making sure you've got something like a task manager, like Asana, which is a really good app for task managing. And I'd even argue that, part of it is work rate. Like, I don't care if I've got to do a 20-hour day, 7 days a week. Equally, sometimes I might only have to do 4 hours a day for the week. It really just depends on the amount of work that's needed to be done. But I'd argue I've still got a lot of time for other stuff that I still have planned.
Yeah, I think that, I suppose being effective and being efficient is massive, isn't it? I think it's very, very easy to sit and have a task take over hours and hours and hours when it doesn't necessarily need to, or time management sheets with PTs, don't we, Mark? So just having them block out how their ideal week would look and how their current week looks, and then how they work towards that. 100% time management is an absolute massive one, and like you say there, having the maximum input, how you're going to do that is going to take time to understand and get your head into what maximum input actually looks like, I suppose.
Well, you can be a busy fool as well, I think, which is a massive issue in today's working culture, especially in like an office environment. Like, if you've got a colleague or something, or I don't like to use the word employee because I don't believe in it, but like, if you've got an employee and they're working, like, they can be sitting at their desk and essentially working for 8 hours a day, but really how much of that work is valuable work that's actually going to contribute to, again, I use this term, success of the company, and that's not efficient. I'd rather have someone who puts in an hour of solid work than 8 hours of just monotonous nothingness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and there is an issue. I think there's a massive issue with that in the culture of today's society, because I think people in general are a bit lazy and look for the easy route. I
think that is based on a vision as well. Like, some of these guys that work in offices, their line managers or the general manager, the director or whatever, they probably haven't given them a vision of where the company is going or striving for. So then they have to just sit and work for 8 hours because there's a target for the end of the week to hit, rather than the vision of the company is, we want to expand to this. So this is what we need from your skill set. And I'm totally agree with you. I think that is a massive stumbling block or hurdle within some businesses, especially in office-based places as well.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that it comes back to sort of this thing of motivation, and I always remember, like, it's literally the first thing my dad taught me, which sort of led me to do what I do. And he said, you'll only ever make money working for yourself. And one of the biggest drivers for motivation is money. And these people who are working in the, sort of for massive, financier companies or in offices of, 1,000 desks plus, they really haven't got no end game. They've got no end goal. It's hard for them to be motivated, which is why they're paying their jobs almost lip service and not being effective. I do think like the whole coronavirus pandemic will bring an age of working from home and that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of tech out there that can make people really efficient. So I do think sort of that issue of this laziness culture will be addressed sooner rather than later, especially by sort of the big giants who'll lead it.
Yeah, I think, like you said there, being busy and being productive are two completely different things, aren't they? But if you've most of the people out there, it's because they've not got that fire that's inside them that's lighting them up to actually go and be productive, which is, again, like you said, maybe to their background, maybe to their environments that they've been in. They just don't know actually how to go and do that, which is quite a sad thing. And with PTs especially, where do they start? Like programming is what lights them up. But when we sit down and we talk about, right, let's go through your financials, let's understand the trends of your business, let's look at what your year-on-year growth is, let's look at all of these sorts of different things. That's not their passion, so that's why they put it to one side, and then they sit there and actually got to do it. They become busy because they're flitting in between one thing and another, and almost procrastinating on the thing that's going to give them the most value. But again, that can probably be maybe down to fear a little bit of not knowing how to do that, which, like you said there, is probably a note to them to go and either outsource or link in with someone that can support them on that.
Well, it comes down, I suppose, to as well, is doing what you enjoy. Like you said there, PTs, like they like when they do the program, it's because they enjoy it. Like that's their job. Obviously, they're doing something that they like doing. Like if you're at school, for example, I used to be shit at maths, so I used to hate going to maths.
You used to be.
Huh? You're still shit at maths. Yeah, so I never used to enjoy doing it. I used to hate the subject at school, but then I used to be really good at art, so that just meant like art, design, that sort of thing. So that meant I like enjoyed it. I wanted to do it. I didn't see it as a task. And like maths, I'd be sitting there in a corner on my phone or whatever, not listening. Where like art, I'd be there like essentially fucking the next Da Vinci. And that is led all the way up until the workplace. Like you're going to be a lot more efficient, a lot more effective, a lot more sort of time efficient if you're doing something that you enjoy. So maybe that's a tip from like another tip from all of us, I suppose, is make sure whatever you're going into, if it is going to be your own thing, run your own PT business, make sure you enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's funny, actually. I had this conversation with Lacey, our eldest, the other day. She was talking about getting older and what sort of job she wants to do and whatever else. And I think he's from Gary Vee, to be fair, mate, someone that you listen to as well. But one of the big things that he talks about, especially with young people, is how young you actually are and how many years there are ahead of you to go and, if you fail, get a bullshit job, as he calls it. But I think that initial 10 years of when you leave school to when you go into the workplace, or you're trying to find what your thing is, there's nothing wrong in taking years to go and actually trial so many different areas that you can find what lights you up. Because again, I was having this conversation with a mate of mine on the phone the other day. I think we're conditioned so much going through school that you've got to pick your options when you're in year 9. You've got to decide what it is that you want to do when you leave school, and those options, those GCSEs, are the be all and end all of the rest of your life. So make sure you pick the right ones that are going to get you the career you want. When actually, let's be honest, at that age, you haven't got a clue what it is that you really want to do. Yeah, you know that you might enjoy doing art, or for me, PE was always a love PE. Anything to do with exercise was amazing for me. But then how you go and monetize that is a different conversation. But like I say, for people that don't necessarily have something that lights them up in school, there's nothing wrong in going out there and between the age of 20 and 30, trying however many different jobs for however many months, whether that's volunteering, whether that's actually getting the job to go and see how you find the environment. Because again, corporate world compared to self-employed, and then after that 10-year point, when you hit 30, you've still got 50, 60, 70 years left of your life to go and do the stuff that you now know light you up.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, like you said, a year there, but we have a saying in Social 90, it's like one of our core principles, is that a minute is a long time. Like, if you actually think what you can achieve in 1 minute, you can have a conversation with someone, tell someone you love them in a minute, you can tell someone, you can go and complete a task, you can go, you can come up with the next £1 million idea in a minute, in a split second even. So in actual fact, if you think how long a minute is, think how long an hour is, think how much you can get done in an hour, then a day, then a week, then a month, then a year, then 10 years. And like you said, people need to go and trial everything, go and do that, not conform. I'm not saying don't conform. That's like a bit political almost, but like, as you said, I didn't know in year 9 what I was doing. All I was focused at in year 9 was looking out the window, daydreaming about wanting to play rugby all day. And I needed what happens to me to sort of push me into breaking that chain of, right, you're going to school, you're going to university, you're getting a grad job. From that job, you're going and getting sort of a position and working the ladder almost. And a lot of the time, that's not the way it is. There's a lot of successful people out there who you can use as examples. I use the example of Elon Musk, Richard Branson. They never really did that. So that doesn't, not everyone has to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. So, yeah, lots and lots of stuff to take away from there. I suppose the next question before we go into a bit of a wrap-up is, what's next for Mr. Evitt?
Yeah, I've got a lot of plans, I suppose. It's a weird time to try and action some of them, just because what's going on. I think there's got to be a lot of issues coming very soon that people are going to have to deal with. What comes with those is volatility, and what comes with volatility is equally opportunity. As much as I think there's going to be a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, despair and that sort of thing, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And my mind works in the fashion that how can you help people and how can you make money through that opportunity. So the next thing, I've got a couple of ideas. Probably for me, it's really bolting down. I really want to grow Social 90. I think it has massive scalability. At the moment, people are realising that being on their phone screens, on their desktops, they're on their phone screens and desktops through the same more than ever. So, I'd like to do that. I'd like to look at investing in a few other companies, diversify my portfolio. I've got a little property company that I've started, which is sort of buying houses and letting them out. I really want to sort of push that. And yeah, I suppose they're sort of the next things for me. Do a bit more travelling, a few more nights out. You know what I mean? Maybe get a new car, that sort of thing.
Proper 21-year-old stuff.
Yeah, mate, just go and waste any money that I'm making. Go against all the advice that I've been trying to give people. No, probably to be honest with you, in the immediate future, go and build my girlfriend a bloody sink shelf or something like that. I've been trying to work out for the last 2 days.
Mad, amazing. Yeah, appreciate you jumping on, mate. We have got a few fun questions that we wrap up the podcast with, so we'll go into those. If you want to go with the first one, Mark.
Is it what we're doing? Dinners?
Yeah, we'll do that one, mate.
Dinner guests on.
Guests first.
Right. So 3 guests, alive or dead. What 3 guests are you bringing to your dinner party and why?
Oh, mad question. So Elon Musk, mentioned him like 3 times. Absolute visionary. Darren Brown for the entertainment. Like, he's big guy. He's a big name. And then, you know what? I'd pick someone stupid like Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill. Maybe from the, that's like 3. Maybe from the past, someone, don't know.
There you 3.
Those 3 will be.
Okay, cool. So you've got your 3 guests. You're now going to need to serve them something. You don't necessarily have to be able to cook it yourself because, that might not be a forte of yours. It might be, who knows?
Yeah.
Your mum's a decent cook, isn't she?
Yeah, Claire's all right. Claire does the business, to be fair. So
we'll get Claire in the kitchen. What's she going to be serving for starters, mains and dessert?
Well, I'll tell you what. She won't have to cook. We'll have for a start, we'll have some sushi. I don't know if she can cook that. Don't know if she's ever cooked that, but she can learn, especially for the big occasion. So starters, we'll have some sushi. Main, she can run to Mackey's and get everyone a Big Mac. Like, I don't think you can really go wrong. And dessert, I'm a big cake lover, so I'd get in like some Mad Cheesecake Factory Red Velvet or something like that.
Fair play. Yeah, that's. I think if anything, mate, that just shows even more so the level of efficiency you're looking for, because it's someone else. So we've got your guests, we've got your meal. What else are we going with, Mark?
Desert Island. Yeah, so you're stranded on Desert Island. You've got one album and one album only that you can take, music album. What you take?
Yeah. J. Cole, Forest Hill Drive.
No question about it, straight in.
Yeah, 100%.
To be fair.
Yeah.
Good shout.
100%.
Amazing. Cool. Appreciate that, mate. So again, been really, really great to have you on and catch up. I know we don't get a chance to catch up as often as we'd probably like to, but massively appreciate you jumping on with us. It's been really good to hear all of your ventures and where you've got to now. So for those listening, if you do want to subscribe for all of the upcoming episodes, if you click down in the bottom corner, you'll get notifications then of every episode that's released. Massive thanks again to Lou for jumping on. Martin's been with us as well, and we'll catch you all next time. Have a fantastic day. See you soon.
Wicked lads.